Hey everyone, welcome to the LIBERcast for another episode. I have the honor of having Scott Gordon with me, and we're going to talk about spiritual healing and the natural laws because they're interconnected. And I want to add, before starting, that I'm going to have Michael Knight from RBE, Ubuntu. This the money-free world. Just like be there when it's coming, and you'll have all the explication there. There's these people are like cooperating. They want to build a system on cooperation, so one day we don't have money anymore. So I'm gonna let Scott introduce himself, and we're gonna talk a little bit about natural laws.
Welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Neil.
No
my name is Scott Gordon, and I've been working in the freedom, truth, justice movement most of my life, but particularly with the movement that has coalesced around Mark Passio's teachings of natural law in the last several years. And I ran into Mark's teachings in 2014. I had been a Scientologist for many years, and I'll talk a little bit about my background there. But I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm looking at merging the knowledge that I've gained from Mark Passio's teachings and looking into natural law and going deeper into philosophy with the inner work that's found in the Scientology cult, which most people view it as a cult or a religion. And it's actually a philosophy with a lot of teachings and a lot of unique approaches to the inner work that can't be found anywhere else. And have never really, bits and pieces have found their way into psychology, such as traumatic incident reduction is pretty much a rendition of Dianetics, which L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, put or brought into public view. And so traumatic incident reduction is known by many in the psychology and counseling profession. But there's not a whole lot known about the Scientology inner work processing, which I'm going to try to explain in this show.
Yes. It's awesome. So,
yeah.
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Since when you decided to take this path, and how did it happen?
Well, as I mentioned, I think probably I became conscious of a presence on the planet of evil and an agenda that's not what we are told it is on the mainstream media and news, all the way back around 1987. I saw some graffiti actually on the walls of the University of New Mexico, where I was doing architecture school, that said that the CIA was dealing drugs for arms from Nicaragua. And that was a completely new idea to me. And I knew something was wrong with government and with the way that the United States was used as an international police force, but I did not know the extent of the actual use of drug trafficking and all kinds of other things to accomplish those goals. And I began to wake up, and I began to look for the alternative news rather than the mainstream news. I looked for the campus newspapers, the papers that people were handing out, whether they were from socialist groups or wherever, that were talking about, or Lyndon LaRouche's organization, talking about the news that we're not allowed to hear. And this has been an awakening process ever since, which has been, I think it's been 34 years. Of course, I had a personal transformation back at that time when my daughter was born. I have one daughter. 35 years ago, I became a vegetarian for health reasons. And as time went on, I began to develop more of an emotional sensitivity. And when I ran into Scientology in 1993, which I'll tell a little bit more detail about the story if you want,
Yes.
I began awakening emotionally and spiritually even more than I already had. And eventually, in recent years, I've become a vegan. I feel very strongly about animal abuse and how that is tied into the entire planetary culture of abuse of life. And that's what I have decided to base my inner work on, is to help people become awakened little by little on a gradient, and the gradient is such a valuable thing that a lot of people don't notice. We look at the evil side of it as the frog boiling in a pot of water, and we call it incrementalism. David Icke and Mark Passio have yes. referred to how they do this totalitarianism step by step, little by little. But if you reverse that and you do it in a good way, using that knowledge of gradualism, you can actually, rather than jolt somebody awake, which doesn't always work out well, it can become its own traumatic experience. You actually gradually help them confront their trauma, gradually help them confront what's going on in the world, and you have a smooth awakening, as smooth as possible. An awakening's never going to be comfortable, but my mission is to try to help people make it integrated into their lives so they can continue with their lives, but get little by little, get some inner work being done that can help them to wake up and improve themselves and raise their confront. Ultimately, this is about raising your confront of evil, because evil has been done to you, and you wake up to that, and it's really hard to deal with. And dealing with that is a gradual process, and if it's not done right, it can actually flip a person to the dark side, yes. As many people can testify. People that have gotten on drugs and alcohol, that have been abused, or that have woken up to the fact that they've been abused when they were small. So it's really important to do this gradually and to do it right. And it's sort of like a diet. Radical diets don't always work out well. For some people, it's great. It's like a religion. Do it all at once. If you can do that and that's your thing, if you're adventurous, strong, and ready to go that way, that's better, right? That's great. Go vegan overnight if you can. But for most people, inner work or changing their diet or transforming their lives is a gradual process. They're very busy working out life. They may have children, they may have family, they may have a lot of work to do, a lot of projects. They may be struggling just with raw survival. So my mission has been to try to make inner work accessible to everyone, free, easy, free in the sense that if you have time to do this, you can do it on your own. And if you have time and a friend has time and you want to get together, that's even better. And then, of course, if you have money but no time and you want a professional, there's that option as well. So I'll let you decide if you'd like to hear a little bit more about my encounter with Scientology. I'm sure it's a cult, and I can tell you what's good and what's bad about Scientology.
Yes.
And how I got involved.
Before I'm letting you go, because I'm very interested in this story. I just want to talk about the introspection and what you're talking about, what you're helping people doing. And if I had met people like you before, maybe it would have been easier, because I went through fucking hell. Okay, I'm still doing
Yeah.
so from time to time. Okay, I'm calling this shadow work, and I'm gonna do a podcast with Caroline Riley about this. Is gonna be awesome. She written a diary of healing the psyche and things like that. So it's gonna be awesome. So yes, I want to add it that it's not an easy path. It's the hardest path you're gonna take in your life. For a percentage of us, it's harder because the wound are deeper, and most of us are like have been abused in all kinds of manner, and then you got rejection, and you got like all this guilt inducing. It's not because you felt it that is legitimate, and that's one of the point of the inner work, and going inside own's temple and cleaning it. So I just wanted to add it because I think it's so important to tell people that yes, it after some years of work, the you're gonna have candies from this. Okay, it's gonna be easier. Your shoulders are gonna get lighter. Your chest is gonna get lighter, and then your emotions. I became a very stoic person because of that. I can control my emotion now, and that's the one of the great changes it brings in your life. Being able to control your emotions and go through again deep traumas of your life. And I called it shadow work acceptance of what is. It's not about getting rid of it. It's not about destroying this part of yourself. It's about dealing with it and then cooperating with it. You had it. You cannot never you cannot throw it in the trash. You cannot get rid of it. So it's learning how to deal with your demons.
Well, that's a good analogy.
Yes. What?
Yeah, that's a good analogy, because really what we're dealing with is parts of ourself that have become lost or tarnished or darkened, that we're doing spiritual alchemical work by transforming these heavy lead areas of our soul back into gold, back into the lightness and brightness of erasing the trauma and looking at things. Auditing, or the inner work, is basically about reevaluating things that we've gone through that we never had time to evaluate during the time. Because the definition of a traumatic experience, one definition of one type of traumatic experience that applies to pretty much all of them, is that too much happened in too little a time. And then we put that away somewhere, and we really never look at it again. It's like we had too much junk in the house. Someone was coming over, we threw it in the closet, and we get to the point we don't even know what we own anymore. We don't know how much value we've lost over the years, how much of ourselves we've lost because we have pushed those things to the side. And when we can pull them out, inspect them again, clean them up, we add them to our life and our experience again, and we become bigger and better people once again. And that can happen. That's a transformation that is the goal of the inner work.
You put it on beautiful. It's beautiful. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the analogy of the lead becoming gold, and the butterfly thing. You become something.
Yeah.
I would say that it's probably you become re-become what you were before all these traumas were. I don't think there's a complete way out of the shadow work. I think it's a lifelong not struggle, because it's not always about struggle, but I think it's a a goal, life goal of your life to like clean your own temple and have a lighter life, filled with light, filled with love, because all this is possible. I went through like a deep recess of depression. I know these territories, so now I'm not living them anymore. I still get like a little downer from time to there because of what happened these days. Since an hour and year and a half or two. Yes, I have indignation, anger, a lot of anger, but
Sure.
I'm anger for me is I transmute this force.
Good.
I transfer it in will and action.
Right.
It's the only way. If I don't do that, I'm gonna it's like repression, emotional repression. I have to let it go.
Right, and we're talking about inner work, and what do we mean by the outer work? And the outer work is the world out there is in trouble, and right now we're going through a lot of stress, and it's natural to experience and to feel anger. If you're not angry about the current world situation, maybe you're not alive, or maybe there's a lot of trauma in your case.
Yes.
But in any case, if we do the inner work, and we learn to deal with that anger constructively, it gives us a great advantage in leadership in the outer work, where we can set a good example, we can help people solve these outer problems in the world because we are in touch somewhat with our inner problems and we know how to overcome those.
Yes, and it's not easy work, believe me.
Not at all. But what I can tell you about some of the advantages that I picked up from Scientology auditing work is that we do have techniques of focus where we can focus in on those areas of greatest charge, of greatest interest, of greatest life purpose, so that when we do the work, it's more efficient. It is overwhelming at first. We got so many things that we've been through, and there are so many areas of life that can become a problem. But when we can help a person to get through these areas one at a time in a focused manner, then the whole picture begins to come together. That you begin to, I'll tell you, the core of our case is based on three different flows of things that that we encounter in the universe. The core of the case is the problem. Whether that problem is the existential problem, to be or not to be, to survive or to succumb. Those are huge problems because we are more than just bodies. We are spiritual beings, and we embrace a lot of existence, a lot more than we know. And as you grow, you grow into that, and you become in touch with your spiritual elements and your spiritual side, and you realize that you're a being with a lot of dynamics, and that it does matter what goes out there in the world because that's part of you. And so the idea is that if we can break down these areas of inner work into different parts and different areas, then we can do a better job focusing on them, clean those up. When they all come back together, we're more effective at the outer work. We're more effective dealing with life, dealing with our life, and we're happier because we've come to terms with the way the universe is and not the way we were told it was when we were young or miseducated or propagandized about how the world and the universe works. And we have to, that's part of the inner work, is to coming to terms with that.
Natural laws.
And the natural laws. And one of the best summaries of natural law that Mark Passio brought in at least one of his presentations was the original Serenity Prayer. And it doesn't have to be seen as a religious thing. It's just a God grant me the serenity to and I'm paraphrasing here, to accept those things that can not be changed. Okay? Now, in the Alcoholics Anonymous version, you have a little bit of a watered down so that people who are focusing entirely on themselves, it's the things that I can change. Okay? That's a very important distinction that Mark made. The things that can be changed means we need to figure out, it's our responsibility, should we choose to accept the mission, is if something can be changed, let's use our creativity, our imagination, all of our beingness to apply change to the world, because the world needs change, especially in those areas that are dark and negative and that are holding us back. So that prayer is very, very powerful. It tells us all at once that there is an objective universe out there, and it's not all about just little old me. It's about, I have a responsibility. I have rights and responsibilities. It's a two-way street between me, myself, and the universe out there. Other people, if you want to believe in God or call God the supreme being or nature, natural law.
Yes.
Those are different ways to look at there's an objective intelligence out there that has put this universe into place and kind of keeps it together, and then has charged us with dealing with this universe as a group, as beings, spiritual beings all together, and we have to get along. You know, we don't have much of a choice. You can't choose not to exist if you're consciousness. Consciousness is aware. You can choose to end this life as a body, but there are certain philosophical things that are just there, and that's what natural law is. That's beginning to learn and accept what are those things that cannot be changed at all, that they're just part of the natural laws of the universe. And then the rest of it can be seen as a playground of or a game if you're in that zone, or it can be seen as what we have to deal with in order to make life better, and that is an interaction between us, our inner work, and the outer work, the universe, and how that affects us, and how we can become more effective and grow as spiritual beings.
The only thing that separates, natural laws are actually the rights you have. It's whether you align with it or not. Doesn't matter what you do behind the two, in the between. You align with it or not. Well, you're gonna have the result that you're putting into the universe. That's it. Yeah. Here's a great example, and this is what makes a distinction between this work and, say, something like channeling or spiritual work. And I don't want to denigrate spiritual work in any way, because I think if you do the inner work, you open the door to an authentic spiritual work where you can really have perceptions that are extrasensory and that are accurate and that can, say, reach people at a distance, okay, and influence people at a distance. But before we go there, we have the New Age telling us that to pass go and go directly to, listening to something like channeling, and someone says, well, the Andromedans are going to rescue us on December 12th, and that's a belief that some people might acquire. I'm making an example just for illustration purposes. Yes.
And you say, well, how do you know that? Well, because this channeler, tells me so many good things and has told me that, okay, well, that may or may not happen, but if it doesn't happen, it's a failure to align self with truth in the objective universe. And so that's what we mean by we cannot go directly to doing spiritual work without first doing the inner work and finding out whether or not we're aligned with the natural laws of the universe. At least for most people. Some people have a high spiritual ability right off the bat, and they wrestle with these things themselves. They run into their limitations, and they have to do some inner work to rectify those things. But we have a gradient set of steps in Scientology that allows someone to go from working on your body, working on the immediate physical universe, getting in touch with it, getting in communication, and then go through recalling times in your life, both positive and negative, so that we recover our past, and then we're able to work on areas such as problems, guilt for wrongdoings. That's another level. And then life repair, repairing those upsets that really messed us up and caused us to get off of our purpose or to have to restart our life again. Those things are very heavy and difficult. So we have different levels that we've got to get through before we can align with the laws of the natural universe. And those aren't just physical laws. The area of physics applies to the physical universe, but there are physics types laws that apply to the spiritual universe. And that's what Mark Passio helped me with, because although L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology covers a lot of it and covers a lot of it very well, there are some holes in it. And I didn't realize that until I got in touch with Mark's work and realized that there are some philosophical things that don't appear anywhere in Scientology that were ignored and that have got us in a lot of trouble. Scientologists will probably know what I'm talking about. The reason that Scientology is called a cult is because a lot of its beliefs don't align with the reality of the physical universe. So, and some of it does. Some of it is unknown in the physical universe, unknown to the profession of psychiatry or psychology. And so there's a lot to offer. And Mark Passio's focus on natural law helped me to go back and reevaluate Scientology for what's good about it and what needs to be, left alone or fixed.
That's awesome. You did well. Let's get into this a little bit. I have questions for you. So I've been in my life, I've been meeting Scientologists all around. Okay, I discuss with them, and actually these people are pretty smart. Okay, the French guy. Okay, because probably a French denominator from Scientologists. Okay. He brought me this little machine with two tubes. You know what I'm talking about? That's
called the e-meter, and it helps the auditor to direct your attention because it will create a little bit of a reaction read on the needle. And when that needle moves as a reaction to a statement or a question, the auditor can help steer you into an area that may have this more charge. So it makes talk therapy far more efficient, because if we're doing talk therapy, I can let you tell me the things that bother you. But if I have that meter to show me the things that bother you the most and that you're hiding from yourself, we can dig in there and get a lot more out of 1 hour session than you could otherwise. So it's a valuable tool to help. It's not a lie detector. It doesn't absolutely give you the truth or falsehood of anything, but it does steer you in the right direction. When you have experience with it, you learn that it does help steer you in the right direction, and it's valuable. Yeah.
Do you think that this machine reacts to heartbeat pulse? Emotions are emanating from the heart. They're electromagnetic response. Do you think it's that? Do you think it's
No, there are some body reactions that sometimes will show up on the needle. I have not seen like a heartbeat really reflected on the needle pattern, but I've been at it long enough to know the difference between the body reactions, which are very minor and very, very rare, and the reaction someone has to where their attention is. It's a little bit of a biofeedback device for that. Although I am aware of what you're talking about, we're learning more and more, especially as I look into these other areas, how important it is to focus on the heart as actually a center of intelligence.
Yes.
It radiates a stronger electromagnetic field than the brain, which is caught me by surprise and helped me to realize that the heart is a central balancing point. It's where we feel courage. It's where we perceive a lot of things as well, as we radiate things. We radiate emotions from the heart. So that is very important and something that's really not always evident to Scientologists because it's not really talked about. But it does help to enhance Scientology to learn that there's an emotional body, there's an emotional aspect to our beingness, as well as a rational, there's a mind and a heart kind of a thing. And the body does have, we are spiritual beings, we're not our bodies, but we tend to occupy our bodies and push energy through different chakras in the body. Yes. And it's very helpful to know to see the pattern or the plan of the body in doing inner work.
Well, they're rethinking actually the vortex of energy from the body. Actually, they thought that it was out from the head, but they're saying that it's actually the vortex is coming out from the heart. So it explains a lot. This connection, this immediate connection with people. You have like if you're I'm empathic, like I'm hyper intuitive person. Because of my shadow work, because of what I've done, I've worked on my intuition. And your emotions, they're the compass. Okay, so if something is fishy and it smells bad, then listen to your guts and listen to your heart. They never fail you. And if I don't listen to it, I'm getting it. I'm paying for it. It's simple as that. And it's so important to know these things. Well, so I just wanted to add before you continue that actually chakras are glands. Okay, so they're actual part of your body, and they can be an imbalance. So that's why we have to treat our body with natural product and good, healthy food. All food.
Right.
Food. That's it. That's why changing your that's the first thing I did is changing my diet. So I went vegetarian, and then it sent me right to veganism. That's that's exactly where I'm at now with my food, because I feel better that way.
Yeah, and there's a dietary help. A lot of Scientologists do Scientology and get good results without any attention to their diet. So I don't want to invalidate that for those that really haven't looked at that aspect. But I want people to know how much that cleaning up your diet. If you for Scientologists that are listening in, if you read the book Science of Survival, he's talking about the environment is a valid form of processing, and your inner environment, or you live in your body, and that's your inner environment. And we have a purification program to clean out the body. A slow purification would be to change your diet, and also a way to, once you do the purification program, a way to keep those gains, a way to keep clean once you've cleaned out, is to change your diet and not be taking in not only the toxins, because meat accumulates toxins, but there's another thing. Meat is a product of trauma. and the animal is slaughtered, and you're bringing in these trauma vibrations, and they run through your body, and meat stays in your intestines for about 30 days, and your intestines are not designed, the human intestines are not designed for that. And there's a lot of reasons we can go in. Well, people think, well, we're on planet Earth, we can't do anything else. And yes, we are in trouble. We're on planet Earth, and the axis has a tilt that's not natural for a planet. Something hit planet Earth millions of years ago, and so now we have seasons, and because of the seasons in the northern latitudes, you cannot get along on a vegetarian diet. I acknowledge that. So, but where you can, if you want to become a spiritual person and want to have more power, and especially even if you're already a Scientologist and you've done a lot of inner work, you're going to get a tremendous boost from looking at your diet, cleaning it up, reducing the amount of meat, and we're not advocating a radical overnight change here. Reduce the amount of harm you're causing in the world. That's the karmic element. Reduce the amount of harm you're causing to your body by bringing in toxins and traumatically influenced vibrations in your food, and clean it up. Go nonviolent, and it makes a tremendous difference spiritually, mentally, and physically. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's a great point, because
yes,
in the tradition of inner work that goes all the way back through the Freemasons, through the Pythagoreans in Greece and all that, diet, or the Eastern masters that can actually put their hand into a rock and print. Diet is a big deal to them, and there's a good reason. It's a huge distraction for the body to have to digest these harmful energies and toxins.
Right. It's incredible. And I did refer this book. Mark Passio did send me there by the way as a podcast, the book called Vegetarianism and Occultism by a Freemason, Leadbeater. His name is like Leadbeater. It's like,
Probably lead better. Yeah.
So this book is awesome. It's really short, and it's full of scientific proof, researches, and things like that have been made in the early 1900s. So it's pretty good. They made, like, the food was better at this time too. Now we have like trash food and things like that. So the health of the people that has slowly diminished with the time, but it's directly what you put in your stomach and your intestines will have a result. Whether you put something bad in you're gonna have bad result. That's it. If I just go a little bit outside of my diet, oh my God, I'm paying fully for it. I need to, like, be very, very careful what I'm putting in my stomach.
Right. And we decided we're not going to get into the details, but in the modern world and what we're going through right now, it's essential that you are defending yourself by having the optimum immune system, because what's coming is rumored to be even more vicious than what we've gone through already. And if you're going to face this naturally and not become a zombie robot of the New World Order, you're going to have to put some attention to what you're taking into the body, because it's a line of defense. And then doing the inner work and auditing interacts very well. Those two things together are an unbeatable combination.
Yes.
You're going to become able to withstand what's coming. And that's really my purpose, is to help, especially now with what we're going through, is to help everyone get ready, because we do have tools that can help.
Yes. And I want to ask you a question about Scientology. So are you still a Scientologist, or you went outside to study more about it and do your research?
Well, I was in the official organization for 16 to 18 years, 16 years on staff and then another 2 years still in good standing with the organization. And then I left the organization, which is kind of a long story, so I'll keep it short. And in those few years after I left, because I left under a lot of duress, I had to start my life all over again, coming back from Costa Rica to the United States, and I literally was starting from zero. Luckily, I had some family and friends that gave me shelter, place to stay, so that I could go out and work and earn money and rebuild my life, and that's what I did. And in those years, I had a kind of a crisis of, there's a lot of things about Scientology that suck, and, we're getting the Leah Remini show was firing up, and Scientology had a really bad reputation and a bad name. And unfortunately, it does in present time. So I toyed with the idea of dropping the name or saying that I'm no longer a Scientologist. I never got there because as I began to explore and learn about the origins of Scientology, I realized that it wasn't what we were told it was, even by L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes.
That Hubbard had inherited and been handed a package. And I'm not trying to diminish his brilliance in putting together the package or in adding the things that he added himself and constructed himself. There are those things. But there was a body of knowledge known as Scientology all ready to go before Hubbard started the church. Mm-hmm. And he imported a lot of that in there. He says that, he was an avid reader and researcher, and I don't doubt that. I think that's true. But I also think that with the involvement of intelligence organizations and some of the top forces on the planet as far as controllers, Scientology played a part in their plans, and I believe it was at one time, if it's not still the case, envisioned as a sort of a New World Order religion. And I think L. Ron Hubbard is an intelligence agent. To his credit, he went rogue from his masters to some degree. Not as much as some people would love to believe that think that he's a really incredible person, which he is in many ways. But this, his intelligence background and his own brilliance and his anger toward his masters, because he wanted freedom too. He had a dark side that went along with the authoritarian New World Order as an intelligence agent. Yes. And he wanted freedom, and he was sort of like a Prometheus. And in doing what his master said, he was also secretly handing us all kinds of tools that we could use to free ourselves. And for that much, I appreciate him and admire him. And I acknowledge, too, that you're going to find out if you dig into it, there's a lot of crime, a lot of things that you would not consider okay for a spiritual leader to have. And I'm with you on that. I don't dispute that at all. And we could do entire shows on that alone. But the important thing is to extract what is good, extract what is effective and helpful, and realize that part of the whole evil purpose of the government and the intelligence agencies helping to form Scientology in its beginnings was to sequester some of the most valuable knowledge that humanity could have, how to uncover evil in yourself, how to deal with it, how to erase it so that it's no longer bigger than you, no longer something that you have to go out and dramatize. And these things, if known to the human race as knowledge, would revolutionize the planet overnight. But we have to start from where we are, and we have to help people learn how to do this inner work. And it's not, those things that I was talking about aren't on the lower levels. As you do the inner work and you become a stronger person, then you can start to face your evil. And I think that's the value of Scientology, is we have some solutions to evil. And almost everyone hates evil and is tired of the evil in the world. And when you can get that part of it that's inside you and take it out, then you can, what we say in Scientology, be cause over it, or be a cause point instead of being the effect of it. Yes. And you find yourself able to battle with forces of evil and still keep your head up and keep going, because you are clean inside and you cannot be hurt by this. Now, I'm not saying they can't mess with your life and disrupt your life. That happens to me a lot. I'm a targeted individual to some degree. And, targeted individuals admittedly are paranoid, because that's the whole idea of targeting you as an individual. So you think that everything that happens is because of them. All they have to do is a few things that are unknown to you that mess with you. And I had quite a lot of that going on as I left the church. So that brings us back to your original point. You asked me about being a Scientologist. I decided at the end that I was going to be a Scientologist anyway. Even if it was an independent Scientologist, I was no longer wanting to be part of the official organization. I didn't want to associate with, because they are connected, whether they know it or not, to some of the darkest powers on the planet.
Yes.
In the MK Ultra mind control program, they have their role and their position in the CIA intelligence network, and so I distanced myself from that. But I decided I was going to continue to call what I was doing Scientology, which is the study of knowledge. That's literally what the word means. And that I was a Scientologist as a student of knowledge, and as well as, so the name stands for me. I am a Scientologist, and I'm not ashamed to admit that or say that word, but I do understand what comes with that word. It's a highly charged word. It's a tarnished word. And I decided, well, we're at the bottom and we're going to work our way back up, because Scientology was once a movement of the people who wanted to improve themselves and liked the idea in Dianetics that you could get together, two people with a book, and help each other, and you didn't even have to have a church or go into a church. So I'm sort of trying to bring that back, not only with Dianetics, which anyone can still do, the book is still out there, but to do the Scientology incredibly valuable stuff that's in there, that's inner work, that's
knowledge,
psychology type stuff, knowledge and inner work that you can do. You can do it by yourself. It's not very efficient. It's a long haul. Yes. It's better if you can get together with somebody, because it goes much faster and you make much bigger strides, and it's much happier. And you also learn what's in another person's mind, and that completes the equation, because you get an idea of how people improve and how people are built mentally and spiritually.
Yes.
And so when you become an auditor, we call it a co-auditor, because you're going to both audit each other. That's the ideal way to progress in this thing. And so that's what my websites are about, helping people have a simple, right out of the package. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying there aren't things that you need to know to do this, but I put it all out there at first, and then if there are questions, I'm standing by ready to answer those questions. How do I get started? What do I need to know? What happens when you run into something that you don't know what to do? And that's why in the Church of Scientology, auditor training was very rigorous. I mean, I spent years becoming the first classed auditor, which is level 0. And it's an incredible, and there are many levels beyond that. And I've since done those outside of the church. But that first level in itself, learning how to use an e-meter, learning how to handle an individual, even a psychotic. I helped a psychotic recover from a psychotic break using the knowledge I had just on that level 0, plus I had studied ahead a little bit. So I knew a lot of Scientology. And I succeeded in that. And I learned a lot. And when you help another person, that knowledge is immediately applicable to yourself, because you not only get the feeling that you helped somebody, but you realize, hey, this stuff works, and it works on me too.
Yes, and you're describing the great work.
Yeah, that is what the great work is, and what and for those who are listening that are tuned into Mark Passio, he's many times mentioned the inner work, and not always, elaborating on what that is, but he says we got to work on ourselves, the trauma that's in ourselves, the self-loathing, the self-hatred, the stuff that makes us dark and makes us feel depressed. And we haven't really had an inner work other than going into maybe Carl Jung, dream therapy, some talk therapy, things like that. I'm trying to fill that void or that vacuum of what do you do if you want to work on yourself, and not present it as it's presented in the church as the only way, but present it as one of several ways that you can go, but is very efficient if you want to target cleaning up your life, cleaning up your trauma, raising your confront of evil so you can get the evil outside of you and become more effective in battling evil, become kind of a warrior. That people take on the term light warrior all the time, not even really knowing what it means, or doing the inner work that's necessary to be an effective light warrior.
You mean light worker?
Light worker, yeah.
Yes, light workers, yes.
I call it light warrior, but it's either one, light warrior or light worker, yeah.
Yes. Well, great workers, if you're doing it for a good intent, you're a light worker.
Sure, that's right. That's right.
Yes,
that's right.
It's awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good conversation, and I hope you can join me at a later time to continue that, because I think we just covered the top of the iceberg there. I think
sure.
I think there's so much stuff to get into, and we were talking about traumas and healing, and I think this is the most important work for humanity, because it's a spiritual war we are living in, and I'm still repeating it again and again because it's so true. We are attacked in all ways, physically, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. They try to gaslight us into submission. Gaslighting, it's so widespread. It's incredible. People are doing it to their own family, themselves. Michael Tessarian has a good work on psychological pathologies and things like that. So one day on one of his presentation, he brought up a psychologist who said there's never going to be an end to mental illness, because mental illness comes from the civilization.
Yes, that's a good point.
So brilliant, and it's so true. The culture.
Yes. So since we're wrapping up, I have a website that I wanted to, if somebody wants to just get started, let's see if I can get that centered into the camera. Free Scientology.
Yes.
Oh, okay. FreeScientologyCenter.org is my main work right now for somebody who just wants to jump in and get started, doesn't know anything about it. You do not have to join a church or even read a book, really, although it's recommended to read a couple of the books. And you don't have to join a cult or anything. You just have to know how to be ready, to clean up your diet a little bit, get focused, be well fed and well rested, have a pad of paper, and take some of these initial questions and sit down and have your own journaling session, get rid of the distractions, and do the work on that website. is designed for a new person to get right into the inner work and to go into those areas that are most important to clear out of the way before you can benefit from the more advanced work.
Yes, thank you for your work. It's so important. We need it so bad. In these uncertain times, we need it so bad. So we need hope. We need resilience. We need courage. We need care. We need all of these things together. And you're part of it. Thank you for that. Thank you for your work. I appreciate it. And people you helped will say the same things. I'm sure. It's incredible work. I commend you for that, seriously. So
thank you. And you're very welcome, and thank you so much for having me on the show and for featuring this. And I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to
it out. Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to helping people get started, to help people learn how to audit each other, to coach each other through this, and to be good listeners. And that's how you get started. And then once you get through those hurdles and get your life repaired, you're able to confront some advanced stuff by yourself or like I said, with another practitioner.
Yes. So thank you for being there, everyone who look at it. There's probably gonna be a follow-up episode from that, because it's so incredible. So much stuff to cover. So
yes.
We could go more into natural laws and things like that, and go deeper into this. So it should be awesome. So thank you very much again, and see you next time, people. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Take care.